Everyone. Welcome to our workshop today on navigating sustainability, impact, and DEI careers in turbulent times from Pivot. So excited to kick that off. And we have our speakers waiting to come on stage very quickly. Just before we do that, though, want to play a quick video for you all. So let me share my screen and show this video. I hope you all can see it. Okay, great. Thank you for being patient and watching that. Now, let's get started with today's topic. So, again, very excited to cover this topic. There's a lot going on in this space. And as you might have seen from the video, Pivot is at the forefront whenever people are changing their careers, but also experiencing change within their current careers, right? So this is one of the fields today, sustainability, impact, DEI, where a lot of things are in flux because of global geopolitical changes that have happened over the last couple of months. And we have two really good experts with us, Mr. Samir Huda and Mr. Yogendra Yadav. They are already here with us, so give me 1 second. I will be bringing them up to the stage very shortly. All right, I have Samir here with me. I believe Yogendra is having some technical issues, but he will be joining soon as well. We can get started in the meantime. So, welcome, Samir. Thanks again for doing this one more time with us.
Thanks, Arjun. Always a pleasure to come on your sessions and the webinars. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
all right, great. I hope that's all the technical glitches for today, and hopefully no more from here on. Um, but Sami, so I think where we can quickly get started is with a round of intros. Hopefully, Yogendra will be able to join by then as well. So I can go first. For people who don't know me, I am the founder of Pivot, and we started Pivot to help people make smooth and successful career transitions. What that means is not just changing your domain or industry, but even a job switch which might be ambitious in nature. You might be contemplating climbing the career ladder, going from IC to manager or leadership level role. So all of these type of inflection points that people go through in their careers, that's where we specialize, and our end goal is to help you land your target role. We do these series of workshops every week. So do follow us on LinkedIn if you think you find this insightful. And we'll talk more about how we help people and what's happening in the space of sustainability and impact. So stay tuned, and over to you, Samir.
Thanks, Arjun. So I'm Samir Huda, the founder of the People Order. I run a bespoke hiring agency, and we work with 60 plus organizations across India. And we cater to like roles from a coordinator to a CXO level position. Uh, what we're also trying to do is productize some of our work, so it helps people kind of have a centralized platform. So just watch out that space in a while. We want to like be the biggest platform for sustainability jobs in India, and we are collaborating with some interesting people on that. uh, Also, I really love doing these sessions with Arjun, and generally in my weekends, and do a lot of career transitions coaching. Connect with a lot of crossover candidates who are exploring careers within the space. And lastly, we do engage on a large scale with academia. We work with College of Nirmala Niketan. We've done some sessions with ISDM, this, so on and so forth. So happy to be here.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Samir. Um, I think Yogendra might still be facing a little tech issues. I'm sure he will join us soon. But without further delay, let's dive into it. So I think, Samir, one of the things that we know is kind of the elephant in the room is with the recent US administration change that happened, I believe, late last year, earlier this year. It's just been, what, like 3 to 4 months? But the profound paradigm shift that has taken place is that we have gone from a world order that really encouraged people building careers in this space and had this very positive agenda with a strong momentum towards building sustainability and impact in DEI careers, right? And what's happening now
Yeah,
is that whole
it is.
shift has happened. Oh, we have Yogendra as well. Hey, Yogendra, good to have you. Can you hear us? Um, Not sure if Yogendra, you can hear us. Yogendra, you might want to rejoin in case you're having any tech issues. We can see you. Not sure if you can hear us. To our team in who's managing this, if you can just check with Yogendra and see if his audio is working. Anyways, just to get back to the topic, Samir. So I think we have seen this paradigm shift. We have seen that companies now are downsizing a lot of different types of talent, but specifically talent in these type of roles. The government itself has shown fairly mercilessly that they are going to lay off anybody who is working in this space. At least majority have already been laid off, and there are plans to lay off more people. Now, this has caused a lot of uncertainty and fear, and kind of made this whole stream seem like it's extremely risky to be part of it at this time. Um, the other thing that has happened, just very quickly, is that companies have also followed suit. So it's not just that the government and the geopolitics has been changed; it's that companies are taking a cue from this world order shift that has happened, and they are not pushing back. At least in most cases, we have not seen very vocal pushback against the government. So it's almost sort of assumed that this will be the new normal, at least for the next 3 to 4 years. In this backdrop, can you share, your high-level thoughts with regard to, what are some of the most important trends that people should keep in mind with regard to this space when it comes to the impact we are seeing from the new regimes, from the new government in the West, and that cascading down to, other regions as well globally, including India.
Sure, Arjun. I think firstly, it's extremely important, like you rightly mentioned, to understand the current landscape, right? I mean, we can't live in isolation. So we have to really understand what's in and around us, how the markets are kind of shaping up. But I always feel that turbulent times often shift priorities, right? I mean, it's not always that the entire narrative is changing, but so with that, the roles and the demands would change as well. Uh, so very broadly, just to give you, I mean, because we are directly connected to hiring, right? I mean, that's our bread and butter. So if I look at October onwards, I think we had the worst 4 months of our entire 2 years, right? We were like flourishing and like billing, invoicing every month, and too busy. But it also gave us a good rain check in terms of from October and November to Feb. Having said
Hello.
that, the good thing is, yeah, hi Yogendra. Okay, I think we'll continue, Arjun, so we don't break the momentum. Yeah, am I audible? Okay, great. Uh, so But since like I think March onwards, I mean, I've seen again a good change in terms of the volume being almost being back to normal, right? We've seen some good level of roles coming in back, so that's a slight positive change. I'm not saying it's just turned around to the normal like it was, and like you rightly mentioned, this will be the new normal, and some of it has also given us a time to reflect that we just can't take it for granted, and we have to reshape and rethink. Having said that, when I look as a sustainability, ESG, or the climate space as a whole, it's still booming, right? I mean, uh, and whereas booming is very important that we kind of connect the dots, right? Because there will be always jobs. We just need to figure out what are the new trends. So I think the climate urgency is real, and that's driven by the regulatory pressure, right? So I think globally, if you see, we were just doing some kind of data scraping number of jobs in Europe, and there are more than 30,000 jobs across Europe in sustainability. And we just kind of when searched about just jobs, sustainability jobs in New York, it was 5,000 plus. So there are enough and more jobs yet. I mean, even in this kind of a scenario, right? So there is a certain regulatory pressure that's definitely driving. So you need to kind of understand what are the jobs which will lead or be the outcome of these regulatory pressures. Also, whether corporates or governments like it or not, the accountability is increasing, right, day by day. I mean, there is climate consciousness. When you also look at the new generation, they're demanding that companies operate and function in a certain way, right? I mean, so that's very real, and that's also driving some pressure in terms of from the market. uh, so having said that, I still feel very optimistic in terms of though it will be a few months yet to kind of come back to normal. What I've also seen is in my conversations with various clients that now they know that it's a given fact that we don't have funding from USAID, right? I mean, or whatever sources. They're reevaluating their funding strategy. They are going back to the drawing board that how do we still kind of function? Because don't forget, some of these projects were also long term, right? It can't be just haphazardly dropped midway. So a lot of that is also happening. Maybe also looking at new age finance in terms of impact bonds and how they can really come up with solutions to really further fund these projects. Uh,
Right.
so I would say it's a mixed feeling, but I think it was also much needed because also the status quo needs to be challenged, right? Otherwise, it's we are living in a rut. So I think it's a difficult time, but there are a few avenues which are also booming, is what we see, and we've seen that shift happening in last 1 or 2 months.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for sharing that. So I think that structures a lot of the kind of current upheaval that's going on. I mean, it seems like it's very early days to kind of predict exactly what the long-term repercussions are going to be, but clearly there has been a fallout because the biggest proponent of this field has suddenly severed all connections or is trying to sever all its connections to this field. But you're saying that a lot of the existing players are still trying to survive by reevaluating their funding sources, their traction on existing projects, and so forth. Just one question there: do you see any differences with regard to like all these different careers that we're talking about, sustainability, impact, ESG, DEI, from like depending on the parameters and the angles that you look at them? For example, climate versus social causes versus DEI that companies were touting for the last 5 years or so, and also the angle of public versus private sector. So can you talk a little bit more about these nuances, Samir?
Sure, sure. So I'll probably answer that in two parts, right? I mean, one is very importantly that the roles might be shrinking, but certainly, it's more towards the ROI driven things, right? People have started questioning that while we needed two people for a similar role, would this be kind of accommodated in one role? So obviously, it would be shrinking. Like I said, so there is still huge potential for someone to really find good opportunities, and they also correlate directly to the ROI it generates, right? I mean, like you rightly mentioned, a climate versus a social cause. right? While a climate role might directly have a ROI in terms of many external factors like marketing, branding, customer acquisition, customer retention, versus social causes is always an outcome of the revenue you generate, and then you put a certain CSR funds to play, right? So obviously that's also taking shift, and as more and more candidates or the job seekers also reach out to us are now shifting their narrative. They no longer, they want to upskill, upgrade, and move towards a mainstream climate and sustainability DEI space. So that's a good shift, I think, because even till now they would probably have not been hit back, right? I mean, no, they were just happy, it was just flowing. The other thing, how I look at is, Arjun, is we need to look at the resilient sectors, right? Which will still be, I mean, like anything happens, there will be still a certain amount of traction and momentum there. So let's say sustainable finance for one, right? Like I mentioned to you in terms of green bonds, impact investing, this is here to stay, right? I mean, the narrative has changed. Maybe it might slow down, but it's not going to, because these are all long-term instruments, right? They are not designed to do something which is very short-term. Uh, if I look at climate tech space, that's huge. Globally, even if you look at renewable energy, circular economy, so on and so forth. Also, some of the corporate ESG roles, right? They're there to stay in terms of reporting, audits, strategy, and so on and so forth. So, while I think now the only thing is, India is the only country where we have that CSR law, right? And a lot of talent was very channelized towards getting jobs in CSR. And it was the highest employer in terms of the sheer volume. A lot of them just now do want to shift the narrative. They're also challenging, they want to move mainstream. So while again, like you rightly said, I just because of the little work that we do, like maybe 60, 70 clients, we've seen that positive, they've taken it very positively, right? Even from both sides, even clients, candidates, they have that, okay, what can I do? I mean, this is the reality, right? I mean, I'm out of a job, or it's very tough, I'm not getting an increment, but that's the reality. Now how do we really kind of navigate this and get to a point where we are eligible for some of these opportunities that are out there? And with some of these innovations, I mean, I see a lot of innovation happening, say in waste, renewable energy, water. So I think a lot of roles are being created. And just one last point before I pass it on to you and Yogendra is that a lot of that shift has also happened to tier two, tier three cities, right? I mean, when we say now the hiring pattern, a lot of these roles are now also being based out of the smaller towns. And again, if you look at the cost of living, that suffices the kind of maybe the cut they would be taking in their salary. So I think it's kind of balanced out in that sense, because if I'm hiring for say 50 roles right now, maybe it's a 50-50, right? 25 roles are in metros and 25 are in even Jaipur, and so many other places. So yeah, I'll take a pause here. Over to you and Yogendra. Arjun, you're on mute, I think.
Oops, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
All right. Sorry, I was just saying that Sami, that helped decluttered a lot of the misinformation and kind of a lot of unknown facts that are there around this new paradigm shift that's happened in the space. And Yogendra, welcome to the workshop. Glad you were able to make it. I hope you can hear us.
yes, yeah, clearly, yeah. Now,
Okay, great. So, Yogendra, we had to start just in the interest of time, but maybe what we could do very quickly, if you can share a little bit about yourself and what you do today. And then the first thing that we asked Samir, and would love your thoughts as well, given the whole backdrop of how the US government has taken a very opposing stance against ESG and sustainability, DEI, all of these socially and environmentally forward roles that are out there. What are some of
yeah,
the most important trends you are seeing that are impacting ground level careers for people in this space? So if you could start with that, that would be very
sure.
helpful.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Samir. Thanks, Arjun. So I'm glad to join here, and just a little intro from about myself. Like, I'm Yogendra. I have been in this domain from the last 10 years. I have worked in firms like working on the EIA and EMP, and previously from the last 5 years working in the ESG domain. And I worked with projects being funded by the World Bank and ADB, and also involved with the large scale manufacturing units on several projects. So yeah, got the chance in a lot of sector in major infrastructure projects. So what I see, in previous 5 years, there was huge rush. Everyone was trying to get into this car, but yeah, suddenly from the last year, the things are changing. Like the US government has taken a step to move out of the Paris Agreement, and then from there the things are changing. Like it's impacting people, like government and other industries also thinking if uh, what the policy is being driven, as America is one of the country who is the major funding agency for almost all of the bodies which are funding for the climate change all over the world. Suddenly, what we see from the Europe also, the CSRD omnibus came into the picture. What it like, it also posed the reporting parameter for the 2 years, uh, which is also a huge, I can say, impact on this, on ESG and sustainability. Like what the companies was expecting from the 2025 CSRD will bring huge work for a lot of the consultancies. Like there was CBAM, there was CS triple D, but suddenly it is pushed. But what I think, like what the players are doing, they are currently seeing the picture. Wait and watch mode is there. Like they are observing how the things are going, and they will make their move in some time. But we are here in this frame. Like currently we are in the phase we cannot step back. Like sustainability and ESG is something it can be ignored for some time, but it cannot be avoided. The impact we are already facing, like in winters, we see how Delhi and NCR get impacted, and the rain pattern drastic has changed. Like in May, the temperature is suddenly dropped, like it feeling cold in night, but suddenly it also touched to more above 40 degrees Celsius. So these are the things which I think definitely push the policymakers to be aligned on the target. And companies has invested hugely in the renewable energy. I think there is no going back from there. uh, Everyone is going to move in this frame. So even the America, if they have opted out from the Paris Agreement, several state like California and other states, they have their laws which are aligned with their targets. So I think
Got it. So it's yeah, just to kind of summarize that so that we can then move to the next question here. It seems like both of you, what you're saying is that there's definitely been a temporary downward impact. There's definitely been some pressure from the West, specifically US, against this. But there are companies and individuals who are holding the fort, who are staying put. They're not necessarily giving up, right? Maybe hiring has stagnated a little bit, and major projects might have stalled for temporary time frames, but it's not going to go away. It's going to stay because there is a genuine need for the work that's being done. That seems to be the overall picture here. So that's very reassuring because, to be very honest, many people who are in this field have recently come to us, have recently started thinking about switching to something else outside because they are not sure how the next 4 or 5 years of their career is going to be like, right? Because they know Trump has just come in. It's not going to be like very different stance, at least for the next 3 4 years. So how can they continue to be in a field which is not growing or facing positive momentum? So I think these thoughts both of you have shared hopefully should quell some of those fears. Thanks for sharing that. The next thing that I want to talk a little bit more about is, given these changes that are happening, and I think both of you have referenced this at a high level already, but what are some of the refocusing what's some of the refocusing that's happening in this field in terms of the talent and skill requirements. So for example, let's say earlier there was a lot of focus on environmental conservation, right? And there are different aspects to that, right? It's not just one role. There's a whole host of roles and people working in that field. So I'm sure perhaps there could be certain roles within environmental conservation which are seen as critical roles, and some that are maybe more good to have, right? So if you can take a slightly bird's eye view here and help us understand how the skill portfolio has been rebalanced, if at all, since the last 4 or 5 months, where certain skills have become, let's say, more important and others have reduced in their importance. Samir, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think that's a really good aspect to look at it, Arjun, because what we are more and more seeing is, firstly, I think anything which is obviously, because funding and fundraising is a very crucial aspect right now, right? I mean, in whatever channel. So, uh, someone who has that ability to build networks, partnerships, and kind of co-create value, right, in terms of additional channels, or be innovate in terms of how we can incrementally look at directing funding towards it. So one top of the list, if we work with 50 plus organizations, almost everyone have a fundraising role. But now that's also evolved a bit further, right? Because earlier it was very straightforward that you go to a specific set of clients, right? Like corporate CSR, this, that. Now that's also needs to like be revamped, right? What are some of the innovative methods? Like maybe individual fundraising can be one, crowdfunding. The focus has really shifted to a very balanced approach because that's also needed. Uh, Two, I think most stagnation that we have seen is more on the programmatic roles for obvious reasons, right? Because the heavy cut down has been on, the programmatic roles. Having said that, anyone with very hard technical skills, more into M&E research, right, are still not impacted, are still in very high demand, and they're getting paid really well. So some of these aspects of knowing how to do like a quantitative, qualitative analysis of data using some of these tools. So that's all also on high priority and gets paid really well. The third is obviously again anything which is very closely linked to funding and fundraising is marketing and communications. That's almost, I mean, the highest of the packages are being attracted towards that. So there's a lot of need, because then that visibility is also needed, right, to really be seen out there, showcase some of the good work that's happening. uh, Also, like I was mentioning earlier, we have to look at the resilient sectors, right? I mean, like, climate tech, that innovation is happening in that sense. So I think the shift is now more towards, so I was just talking to someone who's not from this sector in hiring. They do hiring for tech and BFSI and all. And they said, I mean, we thought anyone working in any sector can move to this sector, right? I mean, they take it so casually. Oh, I mean, 10 years I've worked in corporate, I can do a CSR role. What's the big deal? But when we say you're reject, they're like, oh, their ego is hurt, saying, really? I mean, what's there in CSR program management, right? But the clients have gone in that depth, right? Even to look at a programmatic person. Even in programs, if you're working in health and not looking at education, you're not being selected, vice versa. Even within the sector, people feel I've managed health programs, I can easily manage education, but no. So what I'm seeing is the depth is getting too much, right? I mean, it's if earlier it was very agnostic, cross-cutting, that you are a program manager. No one used to ask, are you in livelihood, education, health, primary health, right? Further drilling down of that. So I think that specialization is getting built very slowly and steadily, right? I mean, and people also are valuing that, oh, I have been into livelihoods for over 5 years, so I can. Reason being, also because when you have that expertise, your outcomes are much better, and that organically attracts more funding, right? Because over a period, the donor or the funder sees that value and ROI, like I was saying. Also, one recommendation, like a strong recommendation, like, and I also saw in your video, is that you should upskill with purpose, right? I mean, there are a lot of these, certifications, everything. People just want to say I'm ESG certified. It's not going to help, right? I mean, first you find your niche. Are you like more like on M&E? Are you more on tech? Are you more on finance? And I think
Mhm.
I always say upskill with purpose. I mean, just don't go blindly because it's in thing. Because then they feel that, oh, I have an ESG certification, still I'm not getting a job. You
Right.
won't, because it's not just the certification that's going to land you the job. Yeah, and like I said, more on the data piece, that's
Right.
really evolving. So, I mean,
Got
I
it.
would like to probably share that, Arjun.
Got it. Great. I think that's helpful. Yogendra, would love your thoughts on the same thing. And just one thing that I would like to, hear from you as well is, in terms of, like Samir pointed out, how there is deep specialization happening. So companies are expecting people from similar backgrounds as the one they're hiring from. Can we, because we focus on a lot of people who are thinking about shifting from different fields, right? They may not always have that specific experience. So can you also talk about, like, from that angle, if somebody is shifting from outside CSR sustainability kind of roles, for them, how should they look at upskilling?
Yeah, sure. So I totally agree what Samir said. Like things are moving like that only, and from the point of sustainability, if I see the key skills which are in demand, like GIG accounting, companies are moving for decarbonization and net zero. It's huge in demand, but people are not very skilled on it. Like just knowing scope one and scope two is not in depth. Like scope three is very complex. GAG protocol is there. We everyone, I think those who are interested need to just dig down on that documentation. What are the updates on it? And it is related to LCA also. So once you are into GAG accounting, you should also know about the LCA, how the cycle of the carbon is. So apart from this, environmental compliances people should be keen, like how the changes or the national or global level, the things are changing. It is in the demand. Next, what I see, like GIG accounting has impacted, like if we talk about the scope 3 from company, it's impacting to their vendor. Similarly, now focus is on nature based solution and biodiversity. It will be there, like TNFD is there. It came have with that framework. Slowly those who are leading in the industry are adopting it, and it will be in the demand, like how your vendors, your supplier impacting the biodiversity or ecosystem. So I think these will be in the demand, and people can focus on about it. But yeah, first, it is up to the people what interest you. If you go with the thing that if you it is more interest to you, and like there are a lot of changing due to AI. Now company are demanding people should be aware of the languages like Python, the Altrex, SAP. So those from the IT and computer science background can adopt into this as per this role. And people from finance, like can be adopt from the point of the sustainable finance. Like sustainability is very huge, wide. You should see from which angle you can make your inputs. And as Samir mentioned, upskilling is very important. Things are changing very rapidly. Like before ISSB, there are number of frameworks, like GRI was there. People are working on GRI to develop GRI, then BRSR, then TCFD, then CSRD, CDP. So how much like you cannot become expert in every each and every framework, but you should know like what exactly it is and how these all are interrelated or linked, where we can link. So this thing, I think people should like focus. Upskilling is very important. Don't chase the certificates. First focus on the like there are a lot of free education available on the UN sites, World Bank, ADB. They are full of it. But what I see, some institution charging huge money for the simple certificate. What a GIG accounting one will give you for 4 hours. I can taught you free, but you can learn from the GIG protocol. They have the recorded webinar versions, but people are going to pay 20,000 for just a session. I think uh, it need to be relooked.
You're on mute, Arjun.
Sorry, I keep doing that. My bad. But what I was saying is, so it seems like there are a lot of courses and certifications which are not necessarily providing as much value, but charging a lot. I think the
Yeah.
other thing that we have heard from a lot of folks is, see, there's usually not any very well-renowned degree in this space, right? So most of the people, when they upskill, they think about certifications more often than they think about a degree or a long form kind of a course. Now, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but the challenge we find, and both of you have alluded to this now, is that there are only certain number of courses out there. Most of them are short form. Most of them are either expensive or at least chargeable at some level, but they don't really help you differentiate yourself in the market in any form or fashion. So what is the real use of most of these short form courses that are there? And by the way, a lot of companies do say on their JDs that we are looking for people with XYZ certification. So in some ways, it's a problem that's being created by the ecosystem. It's not just the course companies, not just the education platforms. Um, but since both of you have pointed out that taking these courses doesn't guarantee you a job, it doesn't help you necessarily stand out, and some of these courses are downright, extorting you really for not much value. So how should one stay clear of these pitfalls in the market and focus on the right courses? How do you identify the right courses and right upskilling avenues? Samir, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in again two parts. One is the misconception that I think mostly we do any certification or is just the direct outcome that I should get a job. That's not happening. I think you need to do a reality check. So that's one thing, probably what I was trying to say. Do it for your learning. Even if you're paying, you have the money, do it for learning. Don't think that a certification ho gaya, I'll get a job next day. No, that's not happening, because you're not the only one who's doing that, right? So first is that just do it for your own learning and upgradation. Secondly, like you rightly said, it's also, we need to understand it's a very new concept, at least in India, right? And it's still evolving, rapidly evolving, right? And with that, there's a huge potential. So nothing that you do right now will be like sufficing. And like also Yogendra mentioned with the AI, and we are just totally disregarding that for now. But assuming that that's even not a point of contention here, you'll need to keep upgrading and doing evolve in your certification levels and everything, right? Like how we mentioned, scope 1, scope 2 is not enough, right? So that's one. Now that's also a reality that we don't have much like long form courses, and I'm sure sooner or later that's going to happen when we get to a structure where at least some format is like really useful. Secondly, taking a little deviation from that, what is happening is we have to also be mindful of the sheer number of people who are interested in this space also, right? So it's 1 is to 100 at times. I mean, I'm still understating, underquoting the number, right? I'm sure when we also get applications, I mean, we are helpless when candidates ask us for feedback that my name is written all over the JD. Why you are saying that it's reject? But there is like point one someone better in some form or shape. So what I want to kind of emphasize on is, one, while they have all the certifications, everything, sometimes they just lack even very basics of like presenting themselves well, right? And that's something that we should touch upon as well as a whole, right? Because not only a degree, not only something is going to land you there, because a lot of these are client facing roles, right? I mean, most of it you're managing multinationals or in interacting with stakeholders. So I would probably let Yogendra answer on more on the technical part of the courses or certifications, and I wanted to touch upon a little on the softer elements also, sometimes when the CV is
Awesome.
not getting really shortlisted. Yeah, Yogendra.
Yeah. So yeah, I think on that part, it is very crucial to identify what courses are aligned with your background. Like you suddenly are from say from normal graduation, but you are jumping for the GHG accounting, it will not going to help you. But people from certain background, like those who are from the engineering background, it will be easy for them to adopt it. But uh, the people from the finance background have more knowledge about the accounting and their framework, so they are more aligned with the assurances. So they can be into assurance and sustainable finance. So I think first you need to know your background, your interest, and then align your skills, what you want to update and where you want to move. I am not saying that anybody cannot do, but yeah, first it will help you start your journey, or just make a quick upskilling in a certain domain or certain phases. So what the trend I have seen, it is happening, some organization collaborating with the big institution like IIT and IIM, and they are offering some 10 courses of some weeks or some months. They are charging huge 8 lakh 6 lakh, but I am not saying it what, but only the institution name is there, like it is tagged by IIT or it is tagged by IIM. Uh, but I think before that you should do your homework, do like whatever the things available. We have to go through that. Like there are number of free content available. You can go through that, and after that you can decide in which way we have to move. Like there are really some certification. Like if you go with the JRI, you go with the SCR, and even the ISSB coming with the FSA. So that are the credible one. If you go with them, they will bring the value, and it will be welcomed by
Mhm.
the many organizations.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So I guess there are certain, I mean, few, but there are certain courses that are recommended by the experts that might carry more weightage. Obviously, I think the disclaimer that Samir made, and I think Yogendra, you also mentioned that you should not expect to land a job just because you have a certification in hand, no matter where it's from. I mean, that's the same thing with even IIT, IIM these days. I don't know if you've seen the job market, but there are a lot of IIT and IIM grads who are still looking for roles, right? So I think that goes without saying. Anybody who's expecting that is living in a fool's paradise. But I would say today you're what I'm hearing is there are certain courses you need to do your research. You need to talk to experts who would have more in-depth knowledge of which ones carry more credibility, more value. And you also, I think, Yogendra, the point that I really like which you made is you should try to find certain areas of alignment between your profile if you are especially coming from outside of the field before you embark on this journey, right? I think you mentioned about like people from finance should think about sustainability finance or accounting. Maybe if you're a data professional, then you might want to align yourself with data and reporting and all those things. So I think that's a very crucial point. And um, at least if sometimes what we see is like there are a lot of mid 20 and late 20-year olds who become very passionate about this field, right? They are not doing it for the money necessarily, but they are doing it because they really want to create an impact. And because of that, because of their passion, they don't really think about their alignment with their skill set. They just think about you know what impact they want to make. So if let's say they want to work in climate change or climate tech, but they have really no experience in all the roles that are associated with that field, it's going to be relatively tough. So I think the point around finding common areas of alignment is very effective. Just before we move on to the next topic here, I wanted to let our audience know that we'll be taking up questions for Samir and Yogendra very soon. So please do share any questions you have. This is the best time. There are no bad questions, no stupid questions. Just put them out there in the chat and we'll take them up very soon. Now, here to move to the next point here that I want to talk about very quickly, it's something that we get quite frequently from our audience, and it's about managing your income with your passion or with your the impact that you're trying to create. I don't know if both of you have experienced this yourself or not in your careers, but people after a certain point in time, let's say if they're doing it out of passion and impact commitment for the first 3 4 years, they get burnt out and then they get disillusioned, and then they reevaluate, okay, should I do something else? Now, how does one balance this? Sometimes there is this conflict between your financial stability and being in this field. It's a topic that comes up quite often with us. So, Samir, we'll start with you again.
So thanks for bringing it up, because I wanted to highlight the salary, and obviously that's the core aspect, right? I mean, of any job or passion or anything. I think before that, I think first, even before that, I would like to also identify. I mean, just share my peace of mind, right? Because I talk to a lot of them. At times, we just do maybe want to get into something because it's a fad, like sustainability is cool, right? I mean, that's not really cool. Nothing is cool. It's everything. There is an outcome that is expected, and beyond the point, everything gets monotonous, and everything needs to be treated like a job, in some sense, because that's how the business works. While obviously it's for the greater good. So that's one. So why I'm saying this is, before you even reach that stage, you identify your why. That why is that? Is it just because it's cool, or no, I really feel for something? And then once you really feel for it, you're very aligned to a cause also, right? Like environment or water or whatever you feel. So then there is a real depth in that okay, while I'm just not doing it because it's a trend, but it's also, there is depth that I really want to contribute. Now, within that also, I think there is a caveat that you have to identify. Everyone discloses what sort of money you will be getting for the job at hand. So again, there's no one putting a gun to your head. So you have to really identify that you be able to kind of go at that pace for next 2 3 years. I don't even say what do you like look at next 5 years, right? Because it's so dynamic. So if you're able to find these answers that are aligned, so then take a call to even pursue something at a price point, right? Because that's the ROI for you also. Uh, Secondly, I think that's, I think, the barrier right now. What's happening again, because X person is an outlier and getting X, like say 20 lakhs, for example, everyone says, oh, but he's at 20 lakhs. Why should I start at 10 lakhs? Because you're not really, I mean, there's an outlier. Two, maybe there is certainly an aspect that that person has done something which is of value, right? So it can't, in this market, no one can be an outlier, is what I feel, right? I mean, sooner or later you'll be outdone, right? Unless you're like nepotism in that sense, maybe. But that's the so what I really feel, the disgruntlement, and this is happening when people are expecting false hikes, right? I ask them what are your expectations, and they say as per the market standard, and they think 40 50% is the market standard. Now I don't know where this market is evolving, which is paying 40 50% hike. I give them a reality check. First, your objective is to get a good job that you like, and then I say, even if you're earning this and you're getting a 10% hike, just get into it. I'm not discouraging that you should not ask for more money. I'm just saying you need to be mindful what's the market like, right? And who you're competing with. So I would say that burnout is real. Burnout also happens because there are false expectations and false comparisons. And in this world, I think if you are at a certain level, sooner or later, I'm saying that you will freeze at a price point, and that's where
Mhm.
your upskilling or the movement should happen. For crossover candidates, again, they just think that, okay, I'm at 50 lakhs, maybe I can take a 10% cut, 20. It's not happening. I mean, where you
Mhm.
have enough and more talent at a 50%, I'm just giving hypothetical numbers, but in that range, right? Uh, if I already have someone at 20 25 lakhs from the sector, you're not coming into that, right? So maybe don't transition to it. Just be happy where you are. So I was just talking, I'll just give this one last example and maybe pass it on to Yogendra. So again, someone reached out for a session with me. She was at Deloitte into government consulting. She's like, oh, I'm like at that, I'm, I have a fatigue. And, I said, just take a holiday. Because if you're at 25 lakhs in this comfortable job, just go for a holiday, come back, you'll be refreshed. Because this fatigue will be much hurting when you move to a lower price point and you still
Yeah.
feel that you're doing corporatized work, right? Because ESG, CSR is also very corporatized, right?
Right.
Most of the Deloitte work there, but at a reduced level. And I'm giving my life example. That happened to me as well. So like, why did I take 30% pay cut to do a corporatist job? So yes,
Mhm.
that's my 2 cents. I think what I'm trying to say is that we have to give them the bitter pill, which might be helpful for them in the longer run. So we have to be very real with them.
Yeah, one of the things that I have heard as well, Samir, similar to what you just said, is that the 30, 40, 50% hike has somehow become an expectation for many candidates. And it's, I think it came out of the, COVID period when during, I think, 20 late 21 and 2022, people were actually getting fairly significant hikes. But since then, I mean, for those who might not know this, because maybe you haven't changed jobs since then, um, please know this, that's not the normal anymore. Rather, the market is fairly crowded across the board, and this is not just for sustainability but other roles as well. And the average hikes, unless you're in the top 10, 20 percentile of the peer group, the average hike has come down from about 30, 40% to currently about 10, 15%, right?
Certainly.
So yeah, so I think people should definitely have that reality check. And if you are making a transition because of pay, then you need to really reassess your priorities before you change jobs, right? Because you might not be able to find an opportunity that achieves that. Yogendra, sorry, I'll turn it over to you, and please go ahead and share your thoughts on this very interesting and also challenging conflict, between income and purpose.
So, what I feel in my case, I am into it like due to my interest. Like I was more aligned toward the life sciences, then get interested to the environment and sustainability. Then I moved to this field. So, giving my example, I started from not very handsome salary, but I was keen to learn and absorb the thing from the first initial 5 years. I have done a lot of work like. mm, um, Going to the sites, going visiting to the clients. But I learned a lot how the system is working, what are the requirements, how the things are doing. Why those observations is still helping me. Like, but I also keep on learning, upskilling myself, and during the last 6 years I jumped significantly. From 40-50% I have received. Like it was in the market, it was in the demand. Like people are searching for candidate who knows what is required, and companies are ready to pay for them what they are searching. If they are find in particular candidate, they are ready to pay for that. But yeah, it also depend upon the market situations. Like now, yeah, it is going to impact. I think it will be there for 2-3 years, we don't know. But yeah, still, we need to upskill us every time. Like keep eye on the market trend. What are the things in the demand? Like whatever the skills in the required, just keep upskilling yourself. That is very key.
Yep.
And if I
No, I
may
think
just
that's a fair.
add, sorry,
Yeah,
Yadav.
go ahead, Samir.
If I may add two parts, right? One, like you said, when the peak happened in COVID and the salaries went almost double, triple, right? Please be mindful that no one comes and tells you that half of them or more than half of them are not with jobs because they were laid off because of that, kind of
Absolutely.
vast hike. So we have to be very clear that that's not the reality right now. Secondly, I always feel that it's better to upskill yourself while you're still on the job, so you don't have to come to a phase that you're out of job and you want to upskill. So when
Right.
you're while at job, I am saying keep contributing at your organization, right? Keep adding value for yourself and the organization. So there is a trajectory that whenever the market is conducive, either within the organization or outside of it, you will get your correction. uh,
Mm-hmm.
just have patience and keep building that for yourself. That's it. Like how Yogendra mentioned, right? He's gone on the sites, he's gone on the field, and that's how he kind of is at a stage and able to sustain that. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
No, very valid points. I think the upskilling part really does finally come to fore because there's been so much confusion around upskilling in this particular space. But I think what you both are emphasizing is that maybe it's not just the rubber stamp of a credential on your resume, but the actual learning that you are having and how you're applying that learning to achieve the key business objectives. I think that's really important to understand here. I think we have only a few minutes left, and we have a ton of questions. I do apologize because of the tech glitches. We've kind of delayed some of the questions that audience has been sharing with us. So let's get started with those questions. We'll try to keep the answers short, Samir and Yogendra. I hope that's okay with you,
Yeah.
just so that we can get through all the questions, right? So the first question that we have is from Ashish, and it's a very simple, straightforward question that was asked slightly towards the beginning of this session. In these changing times, where are the main opportunities you see? I think we have addressed some of it when we talked about that, reprioritization that has happened. Samit, just maybe in few sentences, if you could point out what are the new booming opportunities that you foresee in this field right
So I think three, four segments that I see rather than just going into it, like sustainable finance is one for sure. Like a lot of impact investing, green bonds, and interesting things are happening. Climate tech, it's huge, right? As we speak again, it's global and you can really get some great opportunities. Corporate ESG roles, tough to come by, but again, that slowly and eventually will grow. And the final is obviously consulting and advisory, where there is volume, right? I mean, they already sitting on a huge pie of like long-term work. So these are three, four streams which are more resilient than the others. I would prefer from a sustainability ESG space.
now? All right. And would you like to share anything, Yogendra, on this one?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Samir said. Yeah, it is more into it. Like it will be more like that only.
Okay, great. All right, let's take the next one. And Yogendra, maybe you can, if you want, you can go ahead with this one first. This question is from Arsh, and the question is: are we seeing any DEI framework being developed that sets tools, protocols in the development CSR sectors, or is it still work in progress? So I think he's asking more about, have you seen any diversity, equity, inclusion related frameworks that have been developed using tools and protocols in the dev sector or CSR roles?
I think not exactly for the DI, but it is ISO 26000 and 8000 is there, which are more aligned for the social. But the scenario what I see didn't expect like something is going to come in near future. Like we have to wait.
Got it. Anything from you, Samir, on
Yeah, I
this?
would still say the same that it's still not work in progress, that maybe it should be like down the line because I think the dynamics are very different right now. I mean,
Hmm.
sadly so, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question we have from an unnamed user here. Thank you. Wanted to understand the volatility in CSR as opposed to sustainability ESG in terms of a career for the next 5 to 7 years. Very good and specific question. Samir, you want to take this one up first?
Yes. So if I were like looking at the market or entering in the market or already in the market, I would certainly want to build my career towards more on the sustainability side of things. Because again, understand that when we look at CSR, it's just the S of ESG, right? The social aspect. But when you look at the entire narrative, it's quite broad, quite huge. Not next 4 5 years. I'm saying going onwards, I think you should just look for yourself to build. Maybe you can start with CSR because that's the soft landing. You get into it a bit more easily than the other. Understand for a year or two and then build your career. Because yeah, again, CSR is a subset of how the business does. So hands down, move towards and build your career towards more sustainability side of things.
Yeah. Yogendra, would you agree? Any thoughts on this?
I think, but just want to add like CSR is a statutory compliance, so it's a good point to start. It will give a good learning of the regulatory requirement also. It will help.
Got it. And there's a final comment here, not necessarily a question from Arsh again, which was, we can't run away from market or sector reality because there's a huge gap in demand and supply side. Is that really true in both of your experience? I think he's implying that there is high demand and lower supply, and that's the reality of the current market. Is that so currently? Is there a lack of good talent in this space currently?
Yeah, I think so. Like just what happens if we see from the point of ESG from last 4 5 years, people just rushed into ESG, but when we see what exactly required for the role they are not aware, like one two skills they are equipped with one two skills, but as ESG involved, like from the water waste management, emission, energy, they are not
Mhm.
equipped with that. So I see like it is here.
So there's lack of experience in the talent that's being hired. Got it. Savi, I mean, just another related question here. So because this is a relatively sunrise sector, right, compared to most of the sectors, I mean, most of the talent will be inexperienced in this field, from what I would intuitively think. So, are we saying that the talent that's going into this field is not the most premium talent? It's usually the middle or bottom rung of talent pool that's out there? Or are we saying that because this is a new field, most people who come in, as newbies, they just don't have prior experience, so you really have to train them a lot? Like, which one are we talking about here?
I agree on that. And I think, see, we have to also look at the stage of a career, right? I mean, if it's totally like a 1 to 5 year kind of journey, then obviously it will be inexperienced. But when you look at a mid career, what Yogendra mentioned is absolutely correct. At least 5 years and above from a ESG sustainability piece. But I would flip it for CSR. That's the other way around. I mean, for one job, we have 500 applications, and 50 or maybe more than that would be relevant, because there's oversupply of talent there, and there is potential talent because it's an evolved, like, we've been there now, it's come a cycle, right?
Yeah, it's a
uh,
mature field.
ESG again, the gap, what I really feel, Arjun, is the mismatch of the talent and their expectations of remuneration to it. If they
Mm.
were just willing that, let me just learn, right? And forget money for at least a year. I mean, when I say forget money, look at a subsidized sustenance.
Mhm.
Then it would really, we'll be flourishing with that talent perspective. But we are struggling, that's for sure.
Got it. Got it. All right. I think we have covered all of the key questions for today, and we are slightly over our time. So I think we can start wrapping this up. Um, I think there's a lot happening in the space, but what my key learning has been that if you're truly, committed and have a cause to, drive your career towards, then you should stay within the field. You should really focus on upskilling, and you should seek guidance from, people like Samir and Yogendra, who have seen the market across, different cycles and across different sectors. And so for that reason, we do have a lot of industry experts in this space: sustainability, DEI, impact, etc., on our platform. And in case you're looking for one-on-one support or any sort of feedback that can help you achieve your career goals, feel free to check out our website. The link is in my signature. But apart from that, I just want to thank everybody who joined us today, and special thanks to Samir and Yogendra. Thank you so much for joining, for sharing all those insights. I think this was a session that was really needed, and I really do believe you decluttered many different questions and misinformation that's been out there. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It was a pleasure to be here and to connect and discuss the thing. It was very fruitful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a
Thank you.